Greetings, gardeners. Today I'd like to discuss the Hawaiian Koa tree. That's K-O-A, Koa. It refers to warrior, the strength, I think in the Hawaiian language, strength of the warrior. Anyway, whether my translation is correct or not is another story. But let's talk about this tree. It is an acacia. It's called Acacia Koa. It means it's a legume. So this is related to bean, peas, and so on, clover, vetch, alfalfa, locust trees, and this and that. It is a nitrogen-fixing plant. So when you use it with other crops here in Hawaii, it will leave some nitrogen in the soil that wasn't there previously. So it actually does work as a permaculture crop in a sustained situation. The most notable thing about the Hawaiian Koa tree, though, is this tree is the most valuable hardwood in the United States of America, hands down. Even black walnut and cherry don't compare in price. Last time I looked, we were getting as much as $250 a board foot for this stuff on the premium. It all varies a lot. It depends on the grain, the color, and so many things like that. But there is no such thing as cheap Koa wood. It's all valuable. So as a crop that fixes nitrogen here on the island, a crop that belongs here because it's somewhat endangered. We've cut so much of it, and a lot of the land is being used for cattle today. There is some effort to try to bring the koas back onto the cattle land, and so, but the koa needs help. And so each and every one of us, we are planting koa trees in our yards, on our property, in our gardens. I think that's a real good contribution to the environment here. Now this is the Hawaiian Koa tree. It's probably related to the black or blackwood acacia of Australia. It was probably its parent. But it's been separated for so many millions of years, the seeds probably drifted, and the currents got here, that it's a distinct plant. And I have had people tell me, oh no, that's just like black acacia. It's not, okay? The tree's not the same. The tree is not weedy like the blackwood acacia is. For instance, this tree, you're lucky if you can get a really good, successful stand out of it. So it doesn't spread very much. The quality of the wood in general is much higher too. Some of the figures and the colors I've seen in Hawaiian Koa are just incredible. The wood has a chalcedony effect, like tiger's eye gem, where it's layered and it's almost holographic. You look into the grain when it's well polished, turn it in the light, and it's like you can look between the grains. The grain changes and becomes literally holographic. Images rise up out of it. The Hawaiians have always said that it has the fire of Pele because it likes to grow on the volcanoes. So, however you see it, it's a beautiful hardwood. Well, right here is one of the fine specimens that we planted on the property back in, these were all planted in 2005. Yeah, these trees are 12 years old at this point now. They're growing pretty well. Koa ordinarily doesn't do very well below 2,000 feet in Hawaii anymore because of diseases. There was a time when it grew to the shore, but different pathogens were brought into the islands that seemed to make it impossible for it to grow in the warm lowland, although there is Koa, which is a lowland koa, a little smaller, a little more spreading, but that one does grow further down, and it also grows better in drought. Anyway, you can see here the koas that we put in. We actually planted 100 of them at the time, and I actually believe I lost about half of the trees. We're at 1,600 feet, and this is kind of typical. That's not unusual that happens. I have actually found the tree grows faster and better in California. Now, if the tree is moved to California, is it Hawaiian Koa? No, I don't think so. It's California Koa. Will it stay the same there? I don't know. What I do know is that it doesn't have to be here in the island. There is a myth that says it will only grow in Hawaii, and no, I've tried it myself. And there are stands of this growing in New Zealand. There are stands in Taiwan. There are stands in California. I, with the help of several of my friends and Ranger Dave, we planted the largest stand of koa trees and other upland Hawaiian forest members in Fremont, California at Quarry Lakes. It's a regional park. And so the tree grows elsewhere. And sometimes it grows better elsewhere. This is interesting. Like I said, the tree gets diseases and can die off on you. But if we look over here, and then again right over here, these are also koa trees that I never planted. And the way this is happening is some of the older trees that died off from disease, the roots re-sprouted. And especially where I may have scarified the root. Like here I might have hit it with a shovel or something over time, and pop, I get more koa trees coming up where the roots are scarified. They found this with cattle too. Cattle will actually bring up more trees because of the damage from the hooves and when it's minimal. Anyway, so here are the trees. Like I said, these are 12 years old. They're doing pretty well. I think probably one of the healthiest and the best ones is all the way over there on the other side next to Henry's line. And I accidentally planted that tree directly on the line, so I think Henry owns half that one. The first thing a person needs if you're going to grow a koa tree is a source of seeds. Unless, of course, you stopped in Bill's nursery and just bought a tree from me. But a source of seed is a good idea. Seed can be had locally here on the Big Island. It's not that hard to find. Koa is, well, thin these days, I guess, but it's still present. The national park up here has plenty of it on Mauna Loa, for instance. That's where I get most of my seed from. But depending on where you live, what kind of climate you're in Hawaii will depend really, I think, on where you want to gather your seeds. You want to try to get the seeds from the most local source, because the koa tree really adapts to all sorts of different environs, and it's not really exactly one tree. There's a lot of variations here. And, some are growing in dry country, some are growing in warmer spots, some are growing in really wet spots, some are way up the mountain, and so on. So there's a lot of variation. It is legal for private use in the national park here to collect seed. That's legal. For commercial use, it's not considered legal. So if you're doing commercial seeds, you're going to want to go ahead and find yourself a piece of private land. Source of seeds. I have my seeds here. Koa seed is very typical of legume tree seeds. I mean, it looks a lot like the honey locust of the Midwest, or the black locust and so on. This is definitely a very classic legume tree seed. The seed does not germinate readily, okay? If you put it in the soil and just wait, maybe within 6 months to a year and a half, you might see something happen. But I don't have time for that, and so most of us growing this tree will speed the process up. And so what you need to do is you need to A, scarify, B, hot water treat. And if you do that, then the seed's going to come right up. And so, to scarify a koa seed, there are numerous different ways. I use a fingernail clipper. These seeds have both a pointed and a somewhat rounded end. The pointed end is where it was attached in the pod, and you can usually see a little bit of membrane there. Stay away from that end of the seed. You either want to go to the very far rounded end or along the side. You take the fingernail clipper and you stick it onto the seed just slightly, and then hold onto the seed and go crunch like that. And that leaves a little tiny nick. A little nick in the side there. You should be able to see the inside of the seed. And so we just go across every one of these seeds, slippery little guys, and we nick the edge. That will break open the seed coat and allow the water to get inside. If you bite the seed too deeply, like that, it will split your seed in two and probably destroy it, most likely. And so you don't want to get too far inside the seed. There goes one poor koa tree that'll never grow. And so you just nick the edge or nick the tip. Stay away from the point of the seed, because that's where the root is going to emerge from. Okay. Just a little cut. That's all you need. Just a little nick. Anything to get inside the seed coat. And like I say, to avoid trying to determine what end is what on these seeds, most of the time I just go ahead and nick the side edge. That way you're safe. The seeds are longer than they are wide. And so as long as you're on the long edge, you're good. So, after you have scarified your seeds, the next thing you want to do with it is to go ahead and soak them in hot water. Usually, water directly from your hot water heater full is going to be the right temperature. We have solar hot water here. Early in the morning, water is about 110 to 115. Late in the afternoon, it's about 140. Anything in between there works pretty well. I prefer 130 to 140 degree water. It should be a little hot to stick your finger into when you first put it in. You just let it cool down in there. I would not soak the seed longer than overnight. You'll be able to see that the seeds begin to plump up a little bit. So the next thing required is some potting medium, flat full of soil. Here I'm using ProMax, and I've got it in 6-packs. I like to use 6-packs because they save space, and I can get a lot more plants on the tables when I germinate my seeds in these little containers. Plus, I don't overwater when it's in a small container. Seed does not need much water to come up. Remember this. Oftentimes, people just way overwater seed and they rot it away. You'll do that with Koa if you're an insane waterer. So a smaller container with a well-drained mix usually works really well for this. After about 2 weeks, you should end up with something that looks about like that. I just poke the seeds in the holes, cover them up, water the flat, and put it out in the rain here. Here I have to watch out for the cardinals, and so I am missing some plants in here because the cardinals pulled them out on me. I have a few that have been badly damaged, like that little guy there, because they broke the stem. Some of this too, the seed just plain didn't come up. On occasion, some of the seed takes longer to come up than others, but usually in 14 to 21 days, you ought to have a flat like this. Now, Koa does not like to be pot bound, and so seedlings here are that tall. That's, well, I guess it doesn't quite make it to the knuckle of my forefinger, and that's just right. You're ready for a transplant when you get to this size. You don't want the roots going around and around and around like this with Koa. It's very sensitive to being pot bound. I'm using fairly tall 3.5-inch pots filled with a pretty conventional potting soil here. So here I've got the 6-pack. In this case, looks like it's a 2-pack. Turn it over, pop the Koa tree out just like that. Take it. I made an indentation with my hands in the soil. I just push her in there. It's very simple. We can see here that the roots have started to come to the bottom, and so this is definitely time to transplant. Again, with Koa, you don't want circling roots. No good. No circling roots with Koa trees. Koa root smells like garlic, and so you will know if you've broken, cut, stepped on, or damaged Koa roots because it smells pretty much like garlic. At least that's the closest thing I can think of to it. So there you have it, full transplanted flat of Koa trees. Right here I have a Koa tree that is size for sale. This is a perfect seedling size with Koa. It's a little bit tiny to handle for field transplanting yet, so that's why it's sale size. You want to start off with these on the low end, and hopefully by the time you've either sold them or planted them all or whatever you're doing with the tree, it will have developed to its maximum size in this container. Like I said, you don't want it too root bound, so once this has been in here for say a month or so, maybe 2, you're going to want to go to a 1-gallon pot if you haven't put it in the field already. And of course, the larger the container, the more work you're going to have trying to transplant it into the field. And so these are really best when the trees are less than 12 inches high. Much easier to do. Aloha everybody. Plant more Koa trees. Hang loose.